Hey, Helium Network guys, I'm going to throw this out at you. I don't know if you guys are still in production. I haven't checked on you guys in like 2 years, 2.5 years. You had a good idea. I agreed with a lot of what you were doing. I agree with the principles by which you were standing and how you were building it. I liked Laura. I thought it was a good civilian band. I nothing wrong with it. I see no issues with it. Here's my problem with your model. I looked over your model very closely. I agree with everything you were doing. I agree with your mining model. I even agree with how you were doing your pricing for people using your network. And I think Laura would have been very good for people who can't afford a postpaid cell phone, who have terrible credit, people driving through an area that don't want to use their cellular network. They want to have a higher thermal capacity, or not thermal capacity, excuse me, using your terminology, a hotter network connection, want to be able to connect with the local area rather than just connect to the internet and have to use say, Facebook or something of that nature. Here's where I think you went wrong. And there's nothing wrong with what you're doing now. I'm sure what you're doing now is working for you if it's actually working at all. But the Helium Network, in my personal opinion, should have used something like Stripe. Stripe can take anything on the Lightning Network, anything on the ERC20. It can do anything through US dollars. It can do several currencies, basically any currency on the SWIFT system, which means almost everyone. It's like 120 something different currencies. So Stripe would have been your ideal payment system. And the reason why I say this is because otherwise I have to deal with an exchange that's probably clunky to use or very difficult to use to trade currency dollars for whatever the local exchange token is, or tether coins or stable coins, just to exchange for helium, to move them off of the exchange just to interact with your network with my LoRa device. Now the problem with all this is if I have an interface on my cell phone and I connect to my LoRa router and I want to connect to your mesh network, your local mesh network, I can't do so unless I have helium tokens, you understand? Had you built a front end using Stripe and made only the connection between each device charged per helium based upon the total network load in each individual area or region or locality, your payment system would have taken off. It would have been fine. Your network would have never did what it did, which is blow up and then evaporate because all the miners disappeared. And the miners were just making money off each other mining. And they weren't actually selling access to anything because you did not have a client or end use process. Like there was nothing for me to download as an app or a software package or a browser or anything like that. Like, for example, you didn't have a Firefox browser customized specifically for your network. Do you understand? So I couldn't browse your network using a LoRa router, using a mesh network system connected through Wi-Fi or direct Ethernet directly into the internet. Do you understand? So your network just didn't go anywhere because I couldn't localize my losses on it. My losses being the fact that I invested this money and was never able to extract the value from it. Okay? So if I can't extract my losses from your network, it's not going to function. It's never going to gain adoption. That's basically what that means. Additionally, since you never built that front end and that client-side access point, and you expected us to do so, not necessarily me personally or any of us, and you closed off the system to only one miner, basically locking the protocol to only your devices, it made it seem as if you were not actually interested in any kind of network-wide adoption, which kind of scared some people away. I know that's primarily the reason why I walked away, because I could not build my own LoRa device, connect through an API that you provided, preferably an open source API, and connect to your network and exchange digital dollaroos or whatever I wanted to for your helium tokens to use your network, which is the only reason I actually looked at your network in the first place, because I thought that would have been amazing if I could just buy a little LoRa antenna for $70 or $80 and connect to somebody's fiber optic internet and have almost no latency, except for the fact that I'm connecting through a very slow FPGA, connecting through a LoRa transmission, and the data pathway is not very wide. There's not a lot of bandwidth on the LoRa, but it does work. I want the daisy chain and go all the way out and see how many checkpoints I could run off solar panels, see how far away from a actual high-speed internet connection I could go. I could not do that because, again, I had no way to access, as a client, your devices. I would have had to pay, I believe it was just over $500 total for the router at the time, just to connect at the endpoint. And then I would have had to have a hardline connection to the mains, basically a AC plug, and then have an additional repeater, and the repeater had to be on the Helium network as well. I'm not against that. That's how you want to do it. It doesn't work for me. I thought everything up to that point was awesome. I liked it. I'm not going to say I loved it. Your protocol, you changed over to a different protocol. I noticed that. I paid attention. I am watching. I just don't pay as much attention to everybody as everyone else. I don't think that you failed as a company. I don't think you failed as a business or management or any of that stuff. I think you basically misguided your end goal, and you didn't fail in anything else. You just did not have the outside input to understand how a client that is not a thick glasses and quantum mechanics level nerd would apply your stuff. You did not connect to the crowd running running out in the dunes in Arizona, or running quads out in the middle of Colorado, or mountain bikes. Basically, you understand what I mean? Like, a guy couldn't just buy a LoRa device, a repeater, wire a camera directly to his LoRa device, ride out into the middle of nowhere in the mountains and connect to a LoRa mesh network, and then have a good solid internet connection and live stream him riding. Do you understand? They couldn't do that. And LoRa would be the ideal platform to do so. And the reason why is because you can mesh network many devices over, and with a DHT or some other kind of system, it's completely possible to run basically an infinity network, a network that can never crash, never can die. All you have to do at most is reset the client, but if you run an OTP using a language like Erlang, it can do that already. Do you see where I was going? You see what I was saying? I hinted at that direction several times, but nobody picked up on it. I'm not trying to be derogatory. I don't want to talk down to you. I don't know what kind of technical hurdles you went through when you built your network or your coin or whatever it is that you had all the technical hurdles with. I believe me, I know about technical hurdles. Been there, done that. I already know all about them. I've been more frustrated than you can imagine before, and I'm going to be honest. LoRa is an unproven thing. Like, we know what it is now, but rock solid stability is something that we have not seen from that protocol yet. I hope we get to. I hope that in the future, if you're still going to play with LoRa, you can prove that the protocol itself has value to the rest of the, everybody else in the tech industry. Because me personally, I think it has a lot of value, and not just because it's like the digital version of ham radio, sort of. But you get the idea. I hope that helps. I don't know if my opinion counts for anything. I hope it doesn't, because if you're listening to me, you're probably doing something wrong, and you're probably in very bad conditions and straits. And if it does help, good Lord, you took a wrong turn somewhere. Obviously. Well, either way, I hope the Helium Network does better than what I've seen. I haven't looked at you guys in a while. I'm not going to look it up. I don't want to jinx you. I definitely don't want to jinx you. I like what you guys were doing. I just think your execution for client side was just misguided. Not necessarily bad. It was just misguided. Either way, good luck. Hope you have a better chance or better luck in the future. And if you actually want to talk to me, I'm sure somebody knows my phone number around you.